We are learning that President Biden, switching topics a little bit, heading to immigration. We're learning that President Biden is expected to issue an executive order this week to partially shut down the asylum process, or asylum processing rather, along the U.S. Mexico border. What are we learning about this? Why is he doing this?
Oh, that's a great question, Anne-Marie, because this has actually been a plan that's been in the works for several months now. In fact, at one point, we expected that he was going to announce it during his State of the Union address earlier this year, and that never happened. In part because sources here tell me that there's been a downtick in the number of migrant crossings, and so they did not see the need. And they also wanted to hammer home the fact that Republicans blocked the legislative attempt to do something at the border. And of course, they've been saying that for several months now to try to get that message across. But you're right, Anne-Marie, we are expecting that the president will sign this executive order sometime this week, perhaps as soon as tomorrow. And to answer your question, why, this is a huge issue, and they have seen how it is playing with potential voters in November. And the president has repeatedly acknowledged that he knows there is a problem at the border. So now not only can he blame Republicans for not getting it done on the legislative side, he can say that, he's taking action himself. But that doesn't mean that there's going to be consensus among everybody that this was the right move. In fact, members of his own party have already been very vocal, pushing back against this proposal because, Anne-Marie, it does limit the amount of options that migrants have when they come to the border and they seek asylum.
So before we let you go, one more thing. Jury selection begins this morning in the trial of Hunter Biden. He's pleaded not guilty to lying about his drug use when he bought a gun about 6 years ago. The president has been asked about this before. He doesn't generally comment about Hunter Biden other than to say that he loves his son. But are we expecting to see any sort of support from the White House?
Well, just a short time ago, Anne-Marie, we know that the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, arrived to the courthouse. She is attending the trial as jury selection begins. So we know that she is there, at least. And there was a lot of speculation about whether the president would go because last minute, yesterday, he changed his schedule. He was supposed to return here to the White House, but instead went from Rehoboth Beach to Wilmington, which, of course, is where the trial is happening. But we do not expect that he will make a public appearance there. You can imagine the sort of attention that would draw. But you're right in that the president has often expressed that he loves his son, that he is proud of his son, but he is not going to comment on this legal proceeding. In fact, he's even hesitant to talk about the verdict in the Donald Trump case, even though he did come out and make words about that. He said that, he wants to make clear that every person deserves their day in court. They deserve the right to appeal. And of course, he probably didn't want to go too hard on Trump, knowing that his son Hunter was about to begin his own criminal proceedings because he does not want any appearance of interference one way or the other. Anne-Marie.
Yeah, that is a good point. Weijia, thank you very much.